Hey guys, what's up? It's Darkmech here and welcome back to another Mythic Plus guide video where I go over pathing, mobs, skips, and everything else in between. I think to try and make these Mythic Plus dungeons more accessible and easier for people trying to get through them or get into them. So today we're doing Shrine of the Storm. So I'm going to cover off as much as I can in Shrine of the Storm. It's generally one of the more daunting keys on Tyrannical weeks and Fortified weeks for that matter, because some of the bosses are quite nasty and some of the trash is really nasty as well. So starting off in the first room, there is always going to be an infested mob generally in here on +10, whether it's one of the initiates or it's the Templar itself. There is a way that you can actually skip it. If you put up a pull timer for your key and you've got, for instance, Death and Decay, Sigil of Flame, I don't know what else might work there. I don't know if Ring of Peace wouldn't work. I'm not sure if you actually have any other options outside those two, sorry. But when the key gets to 1 or when the pull timer gets to 1, if you drop a D&D in the top left corner where the initiates are and where the Templar is generally padding, what will happen is you'll count down, you'll do 1, you'll throw your D&D over there, put the key in and start the dungeon. It will start ticking down and those initiates and that will all automatically pull as soon as the key is started. You will then not have any infested mobs in the top room. Now I went to do it here and it actually aggroed a critter, which caused the key not to start, which meant the skip didn't actually work in that regard. So we've come out here and one of the initiates is actually infested. In the initiate packs though, it's not really a problem. You can just burn it down. There's no need to CC infested or anything like that in these ones. The Templar you do have to be slightly concerned with. If you go pulling everything in with a Templar, the Templar has the shield around them, which causes everything surrounding them to take reduced damage. So obviously pulling mass things on top of a Templar means they're going to die a hell of a lot slower and you want to focus the Templar down. Templar has a heavy blow as well. You just want to keep that facing away from your group and sidestep out of the way. And that is pretty much it. Now coming out here, one of the small little droplets is infested. Again, not a problem. I'm not sure if the attendants are ever infested out here as well, but again, I've gone through ways in which you should handle infested. Pick whichever suits your group and kind of go accordingly to that with whatever you're going to do, whether it be CC or pulling them in and focusing them down as the target. There's a few options in Shrine in regards to what mobs you pull and pathing you take. You can see this rock right in front of us up the top here of this ledge as if you were going to walk off and jump down. There's a skip you can actually do if you have a mage and a rogue in your group where you get slow fall on everybody. You then all mount up on that rock. You run off towards the first boss's area where that green marker is. You can shroud midair and then you can actually skip all of this trash here via just going straight down to the first boss. It does mean that you will obviously have to pull extra trash throughout the dungeon. So what we do is we clear this top area. We're then grabbing both spiritualists. We're going to get the spiritualist down as quick as we possibly can. The biggest thing with the spiritualist is the mending rapids. You want to make sure that you're interrupting it. If one gets off, you want to make sure that you're purging it off the target. If it's in a large group, this can be absolutely a nightmare to you if a mending rapids gets off. So make sure that you are interrupting them. The anchor of binding, you want to make sure you're not standing in the swirls on the ground. Every time you interrupt a spiritualist as well, they get a stacking haste buff, so just be aware of that. So we're going to kill those two. We're then going to run around and we're going to grab this Templar here. Again, get the Templar. You want to focus the Templar. It's okay to pull attendants and that in with the Templar, but remember, the Templar needs to die quickly because it has that shield that goes on to all other mobs surrounding it. So we're going to kill these. The blobs down below are infested, so we're not going to pull that in with them. Killing these two attendants with the Templar, then we're going to kill the droplets, make sure we're switching to the infested. Then we're on to these attendants here. Now, what we should have done is pull the two attendants back up here with the living current. Now, if you're not comfortable with that, by all means, kill the two attendants up here first, and then pull the three down there, the two attendants and the living current up around here. Reason being is there is a padding Templar that will walk from the front of the boss up to these. You can see him coming back now. You don't want to catch those three with a Templar. If it was a lower key and it's perhaps a Tyrant week where it's not fortified, it's not too bad. But generally speaking, you don't want to put a Templar with a living current as it turns into a bit of a nightmare. So we're waiting for it to pat back, then we're going to drop down and we're going to pull it. As it starts padding backwards, I'm going to move up in line of sight with the living current and bring the Templar around. Remember, line of sight is your friend. There's plenty of places here where you can go line of sight and the mobs will automatically drag to you. We're then going to run down, kill this Templar with the droplets. Again, watch the heaving blow. We're then going to run down and we're going to grab these droplets out the front of the boss while the RP is going. And then we're going to grab these 2 Galecaller apprentices, because you may as well be doing something while the RP is starting. Now, just to let you know as well, the droplets surrounding the other adds up the top of that boss platform are not actually chained to those mobs. So you can actually just pull the droplets and they will come by themselves rather than chaining every other mob around them. So if you do want to clear them off, you can. Some groups do, we didn't in this one. You just have to be careful when the boss splits and you've got the one at the stairs that you don't actually hit the droplets and pull them in with the boss, because obviously there's an Infested in there, it's raging and all that kind of stuff. So then we're on to the first boss. So we're going to use Hero here. Big thing with this boss on Tyrannical is to make sure that you watch the charges. The surging rushes really, really hurt on Tyrannical. It will generally go pretty close to one-shotting a DPS, especially on a high enough Tyrannical key. You need to make sure you're not standing in the brine. Here comes a surging rush right now, which is the charge. So you make sure you're standing well out of the way of that. Don't be too close in behind him as well, as it will hit you. You can see here we actually thought we pulled the droplets behind us, but we didn't, and you can Ring of Peace them if you want to punt them further backwards, which is what we did. He'll cast an Undertow on you. You can disadvance if you're a DK to obviously not get pushed back by that, but just make sure you're running against it. Don't be near the edge and fall off. The Choking Brine is the cast that'll go out from him. Again, it's really not going to do too many issues. The biggest thing in this is the pushback and the Surging Rush, and the Surging Rush is 100% the biggest issue. Now, he is going to split eventually. I can't remember what it's called. He'll also do a Grasp from the depth, which will put someone in like a root type thing. You need to stun it or switch to it and kill it to free that person. Erupting Waters is what it's called, sorry. So he'll do this Erupting Waters and he will split into 3 adds of himself. You need to have someone within range of those adds, otherwise he's going to do a cast. I cannot for the life of me remember what the cast is right now, and I won't get to see it because we've got, I think it's called Sea Blast or something like that. You want to have somebody in range of each ad all the time, otherwise they're going to cast. They're going to be doing this Undertow the entire time, which is the pushback. There it is, Sea Blast, sorry. So if you don't have one in melee range, they'll cast Sea Blast. It hurts quite a lot on Tyrannical. Just make sure you've got someone in range. You want to kill these ads as quick as possible. Again, watching out for the charges. Once the 3 ads are dead, the boss will reappear, he'll pop back up and you want to kill him. And then that's pretty much it. So again, it's not an overly complicated boss, but things can go wrong here and you can get one-shot by that charge on Tyrannical, so be aware of that. Running down here, we've got an Infested mob here. We're going to choose to nuke it. Again, these initiates, they die quite quickly versus like CCing it and pulling out. So we elected to just nuke it down quickly, and then Windspeaker, which is like the mini boss in here. You just want to make sure that you're dragging her out of the haste buff zone and allowing your group to stand in the haste buff zone to try and get more DPS and kill her as quick as possible. Just make sure you've got interrupts. The Iron Hull apprentices up on the stairs here, you can pull in with her if you're comfortable doing that. Just watch the whirling slams with them. Watch when they get the blessing of the Ironsides. When they get that, they turn gold. They do a hell of a lot more damage, but they also move at a decreased movement speed. Make sure as the tank that you're kiting them away if you need to. The initiates are going to be padding up in the hallway. We've pulled them out. There's an Infested in them that we've put a poly on. That we've then pulled them out to just AoE down with these Ironsides. With the Ironsides, as I said, make sure you're running away from them when they've got Blessing. Try and get stuns on them when they're doing their whirling slam, or just don't stand in the big brown bad circle. And that's really about it for them. You shouldn't have too many problems. Well, once you've got all them down, we're getting onto the one we had CC'd that was Infested, killing that, getting onto the Gahoonies, and then we're moving down the hallway to what the next pack is going to be. Now, this room, we were talking about trying to pull it out with this, but there is actually an Infested in there on this week. Again, remember, Infested changes each week, so map that out when you're going. With this though, again, Ironside, watch the Blessing, watch the Whirling Slam, make sure you're getting that. We've actually polyed the Infested Initiate in there, and now we're going to pull that pack inside out into this. Now the big thing to be aware of here is the Rune Carver. Now the Rune Carver is going to put that green rune on the ground, which is a shield. And what you want to do is you want to have these mobs positioned just outside that shield, so all your DPS can park themselves inside that shield. And the reason is that the Rune Carver mob is going to put an ability called Rune Carver on someone. So the Rune Carver, what are they? Rune Carver, stop moving the camera. Rune Carver Sworn. So she is going to put carved flesh on someone. On high keys, on fortified keys, you need to make sure when that carved flesh goes off that you are standing in that room. Linya's about to take, I'm pretty sure, a tick of carved flesh here, not standing in the room. No, that one went on Splint. Find one that's the next one coming up. I think Linya ends up taking it, and it almost one-shots him coming out of it. As the tank, every time the rune drops, just make sure you're dragging her outside. You just want to move her onto the outside so all your DPS can actually be in there. Here comes one now. That's on Linya, and you can see he just proc cheat death off that because he wasn't standing in the rune when the carved flesh went off. So it has the absolute potential to murk your face in. Then we're going to kill this infested one. So we're killing that one just like normal. I was checking the percentage here, and then we're going to run outside onto the bridge. This bridge here, again, you just need to be aware of the Iron Hall apprentices. Have your hard CC going when they go to cast their Whirling Slams. Watch their Sundering Blows. Watch their Blessing of the Ironsides. With the Gale Caller apprentices, always trying to interrupt their Tempest casts. Don't stand in the bad circles on the ground, and that's pretty much it. You shouldn't have too many problems on this. Remember though, you can kite back if needed. On Fortified, obviously the trash in here takes on a little bit of a different meaning than it does with Tyrannical. Coming up to the Guardian Elemental, this one pretty straightforward. You do have the option, if you do want, where those flame pillars are at the end of the bridge, that you can actually line of sight the storm. If you want, you can also drag it back up to the room, and you can line of sight it around there. So if you are struggling with the Shipbreaker Storm, remember that you can line of sight it. What we're doing here is we're just going to have a look at what's infested up here, because you remember, as I always talk about with infested, figuring out the way that your group wants to handle infested. Now, in these situations where there's a couple of infested in this next room, the idea for us would be to try and CC the infested ones, kill the rest of the non-infested mobs, and then end up killing the infested mobs together if we possibly can. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kill all the trash in this area here for our mob percentage. So we're coming here, we're going to kill all these. Again, exact same mechanics apply, guys. There's nothing really new in this one, and I'll just kind of skip through this a little bit so we can keep moving on. Again, remember, you can kite back if you need. You have a whole bridge. Just make sure you're not standing in the Tempest, the circles that are going around, sorry. But just make the most of this area and kite. You do not want to be taking the Enforcers on when they've got Blessing of the Ironside, especially if they're raging, if they're fortified and things like that. It's just something you need to be aware of. So we've CC'd that infested, and now we're going to pull all of this. Again, I don't probably think I've spoken about it enough, but you really need to play to affixes in regards to, if it's fortified weak, sometimes you may very well want to use heroism on trash packs. Don't think that you always have to be locked into on all these dungeons in using heroism on bosses. Things like King's Rest, Motherlode, Atel'Dazar, they all have moments in fortified weeks where you possibly will get more value. Siege of Brass, from using heroism and going big on a trash pack rather than using it on a boss. So again, you're going to have to go off that week by week, but just remember those options. And Shrine of the Storm is no different from that as well in regards to this area, though the second boss is generally pretty nasty no matter what. So we're going to kill all these initiates as we've done here. We've still got the infested CC'd, and then we're going to pull the infested one down here. We're then going to just, I think we pull the infested one in with this, and we're just going to murk it down. Again, because the initiates are non-elites and they all melt, it's really not a problem. So we kill these goonies, and then we are going into the second boss. Now, the second boss, lots of people generally have trouble with, and it is fairly nasty. Biggest thing here for the tank is to always be facing Brother Ironhall away from your group, as it will cleave. The other thing with this is all about interrupt order. So originally in a lot of the guides, information and stuff like that that came out when we started BFA, Generally with Gale Caller, you wouldn't want to interrupt her when she had her buff up, because every time you interrupted her, I can't even remember what it was. You would spawn, I think it was every time you interrupted her, sorry, you would spawn more whirlwinds. So you can see the whirlwinds going around now. She actually gets a buff on her, and generally you didn't want to interrupt her when she had the buff on her. It is far better off to be interrupting every single slicing blast that you can. Interrupting her will send out the whirlwind. You want to be interrupting her every time she has the buff up, or you just want to be interrupting her every single time. It is really important because the damage that goes out from that, from not interrupting her, applies that stacking dot to everybody that you clear off in the rune. So you can see that reinforcing rune, that green rune that just went down. You want to run into that and you want to clear off your stacks of the slicing blast. It is really important to drop your stacks. Now you can see here Brother Ironhall gets the blessing of the Ironside, which is the exact same as the ads, where he will go gold, he will deal more damage, and he will also move slower, and you really need to use that time to be moving away from him. Your DPS, however, have to really use their brain in not positioning themselves on you or in front of him to get hit by the cleave, especially if he has Blessing of the Ironsides, as he will one-shot your DPS. This is obviously the boss that we're using Hero on. Generally, it's first boss, second boss, and last boss for Hero. Again, cater that to however you're going. If it's fortified, it may change things up. This boss generally is pretty nasty though, or it's one of the more nastier ones in the dungeon. So you want to be interrupting, dodging your whirlwinds. When the reinforcing ward comes up, you want to make sure that you're clearing your stacks of the slicing debuff put on by Gale Caller. As soon as Gale Caller is dead, you will stop getting the slicing winds debuff, or whatever it was called, the tornado-y debuffing looking thing, and then you'll just be left with Brother Ironhall. Now Gale Caller is always your priority target to get down ASAP. With Brother, you can see how hard he hits on a Tyrant key, especially when he's got Blessing, so taking it and face tanking it is a little bit risky. With the frontal cleave that he does, the hindering, what you can actually do as a DK, you're a little bit limited in regards to your movement. You can try and outrange it by running backwards when he starts if you're strafing. The other thing you can do as a Demon Hunter, which is fantastic, or a Monk, is you can actually just roll away from that, or you can Infernal Strike away from it. You never actually take the hindering cleave. Again though, just make sure you're not going towards your DPS, spinning it on your healer or spinning it on your group to actually get them murked. So that's pretty much it. Once he is down, we are off along this pathway here and we're going over to the left. The reason we're going over to the left here is we want to pull the Ritualist and this pack over here on the left rather than the ones on the right. The one on the right, A, has an Infested in it this week. It's got 2 Tidecallers in it and it just gets a little bit messy. With the Deep Sea Ritualist, you must have interrupts going and you must spread when that Void Seed's going to go off. So what you need to do is, you can see we have an interrupt order here. So myself was first, then Dougs, and then Linya. You only need 3 interrupts to manage this all. We've pulled an Enforcer here with the Tide Sage Enforcer, which is fine. We're just trying to keep him at max range as we can at the moment. Reason being is, as soon as he gets into range, you're going to see it, the Deep Smash. That's the pools that go on the ground. Good tip with the Enforcers, if you actually keep them at range in kind of like dead zone, they'll just chase you and they won't actually cast any of those pools on the ground, so you don't actually have to worry about them, and you'll see in a second. So here's the Deep Smash. You can see the pools going on the ground, but if I eventually, and I'm assuming I will, maybe I don't because we're just going to kill him. No, I don't bother. If you run away, if you keep him at this zone, no, I do. You won't get any swirls on the ground. So coming into this next pack, there's an Infested. So again, biggest thing, murk the Infested ASAP if it's there. And then you want to make sure though, while you're doing that, that you have your interrupt order set up on the Ritualist. If the Ritualist gets one of these Unending Darkness casts off, it is pretty much very hard to recover from. If 2 get off, it's probably GG, unless you're in a low key or something like that. But you really want to make sure you're interrupting them. The Void Seed that goes off, when that's going to tick down, you need to make sure whoever has that is spreading out, so you're not splashing damage through everybody. And that's pretty much it for them. We've got the mobs up the top of the stairs here, the Tide Sage Enforcers. We end up pulling them in with this. Again, I'll show you that the thing with the Deep Smash here, the trick. If you've got a Frost Mage and they're uber slow, please don't take it away from me, Blizzard. And D&D for DKs with the slow as well, you can quite literally just run around in a circle with them and they won't cast anything, they won't do anything, and you can just continue to murk them down without your DPS having to worry about moving out of anything at all. Once they're dead, we're moving into this drowned Deathbringer, or the double Deathbringers here. They will spawn a whole bunch of tentacles, which actually do a fair bit of damage once they go into raging. So again, high fortified keys. This room's actually going to do quite a bit of damage. You can also drag those two mobs out of the room, which can sometimes actually neglect you getting these lashes at all. So it's just something to keep in mind if you do want to drag them outside of the room. Though sometimes I've had it where the lashes still spawn, but then you're not dealing with the two mobs in the room as well as the lashes at the same time. Now what we're going to do is, with the rogue here, we're actually going to stealth across the bridge. If you do not have a shroud here, you've got some options, because the bridge trash is actually quite nasty. One is that you could invis pot it if you actually really wanted to. The other is that you can death run it. So Night Elves obviously here have a tremendous advantage, which is awesome for the Alliance for once. Your healer otherwise can stealth through if it's a druid, or they can invis pot through if it's just the healer. You can all then run, die, and just mass res past this. It is some really nasty trash and we always skip it. So then we're going to go on to these ones. We've got an Infested Abyss Dweller in this one as well. So getting the Infested one down ASAP. These, again, lashes when they flick to enraging. They'll you can have 4 or 5 of them target one person and absolutely melt them, is what happened to Soy there. So you just need to be aware of that as well. We only kill one side of them in our pathing here, so we're at 84.7% heading to the third boss. And then what we need to do is kill the majority of eels when we get to the last boss. So we're only killing one side of those here. And then we're on to this, the third boss here. Now the third boss, again, it's really not too much of a worry. You want to get someone down to start the RP straight away. Why Blizzard leave RP in Mythic Plus events is beyond me. But you want to get somebody down when you're pulling those lashes to try and trigger the RP off so it's going. And when you finish those lashes, you can go straight into the boss. With this boss for tanks, or for groups, sorry, you need 2 interrupts assigned and an emergency interrupt in case that other interrupter gets CC'd. So tank and 2 DPS. You just want to make sure that you are interrupting and the void bolt, and kiting away from the purple orbs that spawn. If you get surrendered to the void, if you get mind controlled, you still have control of your character, if that makes sense, but you need to try and collect purple orbs. If there are not enough purple orbs up for you to collect to break the MC or the control, what you need to do is you need to have your DPS switch to you to do that little bit of extra damage to break you out. As soon as you go past the first control though, there's generally always going to be enough orbs for you to break that by just running into them. So again, as the tank, you will have an orb linked to you until somebody collects it, and you just want to continue just going back and forth along the front. Try and make this as easy for your DPS as you can in regards to navigating back and forth. You don't want to be standing on the purple swirls where the orbs are spawning. And just make sure, again, that you are kiting back and forth with these. Whenever you're MC'd, try and get the orbs that are closest to melee as well, just to make their room easier. When you drop out of that control too, make sure you don't run into the orbs. Running into the orbs will actually stun you, so you just need to pay attention for when that control's ran off rather than running sort of Harry McClary through a whole bunch of orbs. So that is pretty much it for that boss, guys. Again, he is not overly difficult. Just make sure when you're controlled you run into the orbs. Make sure you keep up the interrupts, otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. And that is pretty much it. So then what you need to do is, like Eye of Ashara, you need to have some patience before you run to the last boss. So everyone remembers in Eye of Ashara when you ran down and the lightning hadn't cleared and you get zapped. Same with this, the water is electrified. So we're going for a swim here, so just try and navigate through here without getting stunned. And then we're going to pull 1 eel pack up onto the platform here. The terrain pathing here is a little bit tilting, so you can get stuck and things like that sometimes, so just be care of that. The eels actually do quite a bit of damage as well, so again, take care of that. We are going to have to kill 2 more packs of eels up here after the next mobs, but we decide to do it after the last boss. Again, if your cooldowns were down, then you would be killing the eels to match to fix your percent while you're waiting on your cooldowns for the boss. These last 3 before the boss, really important that you have interrupts assigned. So I have the first on skull, Dougs has the first on unmarked, then Linya's got the next on skull, and Soy's getting the next unmarked. Interrupt coordination is really, really important throughout these. If a consume essence actually gets off, the mob goes back to full health and you've waited a whole lot of time. The Sunken Denizen does an absolute truckload of tank damage. Again, outside fortified, it's not too bad and you don't have to kite a hell of a lot. However, as the tank, if you are getting trucked here, you do not want to be using all your cooldowns on this Sunken Denizen as on the boss. You are going to need your cooldowns, especially for the downstairs phase. So kill this Sunken Denizen, and then it's off to the last boss. Now, people always tend to hit a wall on this boss, I find, especially in pug groups, people coming in to chat about things or just forum feedback. Generally, this is the boss where things go pear-shaped. I like to pull him over to the far side here in the corner, and this is where I'm going to start him. The main reason is because people generally mismanage this boss with the ads. We are not going to be killing any of the ads. You want to kite the ads. So when he does his Yawning Gate here, I'm just going to move off to the side. The Yawning Gate will silence you if you're in it, so you want to make sure you get out of that. I'm going to dump him on the side. He's going to do the Grasp of the Sunken City, which is going to phase us. So the healer and the tank will be going down here with the Sunken Denizen, and the DPS, the 3 DPS, will be up top with 2 of these fucking squiddy mobs that do consume essence. You want to have 2 melee on the right side killing one, and you want to have your other DPS on the left side to get an interrupt off, and none of the casts should actually get off. So as the tank, you will need to go and establish threat on the Sunken Denizen. The healer will usually have the Whispers debuff, which will now enable them to do a hell of a lot more damage. You need to go and make sure you establish enough threat so the healer doesn't rip aggro and die, as you're generally going to be relying on the healer to kill that ad downstairs, the Denizen, while you are probably kiting realistically, as if you can face tank it for a little bit through a cooldown, but it will be chunking you for a fair bit of damage. Once yours is dead, go up and assist with the squiddy ads and interrupting the consume essences. Again, none of them should be getting off. If they are, you are wasting time. After the first downstairs stage, this is where you are going to second hero and use your pot. Again, you can see that he'll call the ads here. So there's going to be another Yawning Gate up the top. Here comes a Whispers of Power, which is going to go on Soy, which is great from a DPS perspective. I'm going to leave the ads here, and you can see that there's one just over near that monk statue. As they get closer, we're going to use things like Ring of Peace, stuns, slow on D&D, asphyxiates, and we're just going to kite the boss past the ads. The ads don't move that quickly, so you just need to make sure if you can slow them that you do, and you just run the boss past them. They kind of won't, the boss won't just pick them up, if that makes sense. So continue trying to move. You don't want to waste any time DPSing the boss. You just want to move the boss away from the ads. You'll get another Grasp of the Sunken City. So again, getting down, getting some threat established on the Sunken Denizen so your healer can kill it. You need to watch out for these tentacle slams, especially in these phases, as if you're up top and you're getting hit by tentacle slams, the healer isn't up there to recover you. If you've got the Whispers of Power debuff, if it hasn't been dispelled, then you will be you'll be on low health anyway, and you really need to be aware of not getting murked. You can see Soy got hit. I think he either got hit by Consume Essence, either went off, or he got hit by a Tentacle Slam. I'm not too sure what happened, but again, you just need to make sure that you're interrupting and you're not standing in the bad stuff here. So once we're up, we're going to assist with this Consume Essence, and I'm just going to skip forward here a little bit, and then we're on to the next phase. So you can see once his power bar, if you ever wondered, once his power bar gets 100, that's when you'll get another phase change. So you can see we came out, and I think it was at like maybe 50 or something like that. It's generally a quick phase change after you come up from the second time. So again, kiting him away from the ads, the Call of the Deep or whatever it's called. I'm moving him over to the far side now. I'm going to get another Yawning Gate, and then I'm going to drop a D&D slow, and I'm going to run him all the way past these ones, and we're going to have a phase change here. So again, exact same rinse repeat, guys. I'm just going to skip through this one pretty quickly. We're killing our Sunken Denizen. I am nearly dying, and I think I used Icebound down there as I skip forward. Again, make sure you've got some form of interrupt. Remember, those Yawning Gates actually silence you, so if you don't have a ranged interrupt and you can't get in there and do anything, you could be very well cooked, so you need to be aware of that. You can leave him in that state when you come out as well. If you're wanting to wait on pre-pot and cooldowns and things like that as well, you can let the boss sit there for a little bit. But otherwise, guys, that is pretty much it. It's just a continuous rinse repeat, and it sounds extremely obvious, but it is all very much just about obviously the way you execute it. So now we've got 7% to get, and I'll be honest, we actually thought we were going to get it from this eel pack here. So we pull this eel pack here, we've imprisoned that one. Oh, sorry, these 2 eel packs, sorry, we thought we were going to get it from. So again, whatever you've got, you want to be blowing these eels up as quickly as you can. Watch the terrain if you need to kite, because you can get stuck here as well. Can also be sometimes hard to target them in the water. But again, remember, the eels go on land. They're land eels. You can move with them. They don't bug out or anything like that. So as the tank, make sure you're running away if you need to. We dropped these ones 99.4, thought the infested one would give it to us. Ends up putting us at 99.8. So we need one more mob. There's one more infested over here in the water. We grab that. We grab the other pack as well in a panic. We AoE these down. As soon as we kill the infested, we win. So that is pretty much it, guys. Fairly hectic through there. Hopefully I explained it okay. If you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comments section below. To everybody that has been supporting these guides, thank you so much. For everyone who's come over to Twitch and joined Discord and things like that, I appreciate the hell out of it, guys. Thank you so much for the support. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. See you, fam.
The shadows